Hey, friends, it's Margaret Can, Michelle Malloy, Dylan, and yours truly, David Land Julie with fundraisingleadership.org. Coming to you today on the podcast to talk about, I don't know, what are we going to talk about, guys?
I think we're going to talk about shaming and blaming because that's really one of our favorite topics.
I like to shame and blame you. You were telling a story, Margaret, about how you let your son eat dirt, and I was just like, you're such a bad mom.
It's funny because I was telling the story to like what a good mom I am. I was so not a helicopter mom in that aspect. And we
Now,
were talking about children's immunity and eating dirt and
right.
yeah.
For the audience, if you don't know my sense of humor, and some of you do and some of you don't, I was being sarcastic with Margaret. I was not shaming or blaming her for letting her son eat dirt. We went on to talk about how we all ate dirt and Clark bars or not.
We talked about
Actually,
yes.
Clark bars have a crunchy texture like dirt.
Like dirt. Great. And but we were saying that we all knew that we had seen one on the shelf, but that none of the three of us, right, Michelle?
Right.
You haven't either tried a
No, I don't
Clark
think I
bar.
ever had a Clark bar. And you can hear my giggle in the background as every time you guys say shame and blame. It's not that we love shaming and blaming, but we laugh at it all the time because you got to laugh at the times that we shame and blame ourselves for
Oh my
eating the
God.
wrong food or, letting our
Yeah.
kids eat dirt or whatever that is.
Or making
Right.
people wrong, like
Or
making
making
other
people wrong. Yeah.
yeah, like making other parents wrong, like you're at the beach with your kid, Margaret, and you're just letting him eat sand and figure like, yeah, he'll figure this out for himself. And then your friend next to you, not that this happened, but this is like a very likely scenario is either thinking in her mind what a bad parent she is or expressing what a bad parent you are.
Margaret, you need to stop him. And I was like, do I though?
Yeah.
Do I really?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the
But this
things,
came up, yeah, this came up in a conversation. So just for the audience, one of the things we work on with clients in our positive intelligence positive intelligence coaching program is an aspect of us that's very common for us to judge other people or judge ourselves or judge circumstances as wrong or unhealthy or you know this is just like we kind of develop this way. And at some point in our lives, it's helpful to start like what we talk about is like being discerning. Like, oh, maybe not so good for my teeth to be eating sand, rather than making our shaming and blaming ourselves for eating sand or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
But
making
let's talk
ourselves
about it a little
wrong or other
more.
people wrong can actually shut down some of our gifts and or even like David, like you're talking about, like our reasoning around it. Like there might be good reason for one thing or another, but by making ourselves wrong or shaming and blaming ourselves, it completely shuts us down or has that ability to do that at
Right,
times.
where there's nothing to learn. And I think for the three of us who have done a lot of coaching and had a lot of clients come through our PQ program, there's a pretty dark and tender place for parents when they start to judge, the things that they did wrong as parents. It's like, whew, it can just take your breath away. Like the the it's intense. It's a very intense space for a lot of people who are, we're doing our best always as parents.
Yeah. And a lot of my
Well,
clients have young kids. Like they're still learning. All of us have kids in our 20s, right? But young kids where as parents, you're trying to figure out how do I have this career? How do I balance my home life and my work life? What kind of decisions am I making that are going to have terrible repercussions for my child later on that I have no idea about? This is where all the shame and blame starts to come in as a parent.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's a couple of aspects of it. So even in your telling of that story, what terrible decisions am I going to make?
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
so like that has some judgment built into it, and there's this aspect of where Margaret and I talked about incompletions in the last podcast, and like maybe things we did in the past we regret, for example. And there's a certain aspect of regret that can be helpful, like, okay, yeah, going forward, I'm not going to make that choice or do that behavior. But there's another aspect of regret that can be very unhealthy, which is that we continue to um, um, judge ourselves harshly for having let our children do this or that, or us having, maybe because nobody gives you a guide for parenting, you made some decision about the direction for your child, and it maybe wasn't the great choice at the time, but you still regret it and you still shame and blame yourself 20 years later or whatever, right? So that's the piece that we get at the heart at in our positive intelligence coaching program. Like there's aspects of forgiveness and there's aspects of apologizing. We talked about that in the last podcast as a way of being free of that without, not carrying resentment around or carrying regret around your whole life. I mean, it's just unhealthy.
Yeah. And even like in the moment or in the episode as a parent, I think when shame descends, when we decide to shame and blame ourselves, we just like, go into a dark place and close the door, and not very much as possible. But David, you use this word discernment, which is a very different process and a very different energy, which has us maybe looking back and going, I think that maybe could have gone better. I think that could have gone differently, and what can I learn and what can I maybe try next time. So we're not saying like, hey, no self-reflection, like everything is perfect, because that would also be a judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that once we start to shame ourselves, very little else is possible. It's kind of just a state of swirl that we get into, where there's very little to learn when we are actively shaming ourselves.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
puts us into a reactive state where we're reacting against something. We're reacting against our own shame and blame, or what we're telling ourselves about that situation, and takes away the reasoning in our brain, which is like, maybe this needs to be handled a different way, or maybe this is totally okay. And creating from it, being creative from that, or learning from that in order to move forward. That takes away the blame. What can I learn from this?
Yeah. One of the things that I have had a lot of, it's felt good to me. I think it's felt good for my kids too. But now that they're a little bit older, with discernment instead of shame, is being able to kind of retroactively name, like this was a thing that I did, and I see now what the impact was. I can apologize if I want it to feel more complete, or, but it's a very different energy from shame. It's a, whew, I did a thing and it
Well,
wasn't my best thing.
there's two other aspects of this. Um, the way we describe this as a way we sabotage ourselves and others, because it does sabotage relationships, and it sabotages, in the case of self-judgment, it sabotages our relationship with ourselves, and how we treat ourselves. Are we kind and gentle with ourselves, or are we harsh? I mean, I was very harsh with myself for a very long time, and about mistakes I've made, or behaviors that I regretted, and not so much anymore because of this work. And but there's this other aspect in the realm of leadership and management where we actually judge others harshly, like for making mistakes or making poor decisions or making unskillful decisions. So we start to, like, why did you do it that way? Why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you get that done on time? Like we start to point our finger at people we work with or supervise, thinking that that's going to be helpful when actually it isn't.
Yeah. I walked by a store the other day and they had a it was just a printout of photos from their camera in their store, and it said shoplifters, and it was apparently people, that they hadn't actually caught in the act but seen retroactively. But it was photos of all these people who had stolen things from the store, and it was out front like a big wanted poster. on the outside of the store. And I'm not, I guess judging somebody for stealing is different, but the shaming of like putting that photo out. I think there were times when my kids were in middle school and high school that if they had had that poster in the office, like my face would have been on it.
Yeah. Maybe they shoplifted a Clark bar in the day.
That's true. It's possible. And, not shoplifting, but like bad parents doing a bad job with their children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one that's really insidious, the other aspect of the judge that we get at the heart at in our positive intelligence coaching program is how we judge circumstances. And this is the one that's really tough for a lot of people, is because, something happens or doesn't happen, and then we immediately make that wrong and then want to try to fix it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Again, blame this discernment. Well, did what happen, was it did it cause harm, or did it make you uncomfortable, or did it not go as you had wanted it, and you could take corrective action, but without sort of that, this is like when you come at it from, oh, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening, like it's a whole different energy,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't always control the circumstances in our life or what's happening around us. But another way of what you're pointing to, David, is we can control how we respond to it. And that is a very different energy. Reacting to it is a defensive, blaming something, that energy of this isn't right, needs to be perfect, or whatever these messages we give ourselves. But how do I want to respond to this is where we've brought our brain back online. We're thinking about it with some reasoning. Now I can respond, right?
Yeah.
I can walk away. I can respond. I can do something different. It's a whole different kind of energy. And it sounds so subtle in the language, even in how I'm describing this, but it's actually quite profound internally in how it feels, because we get to take action for what we feel is the right way to do, or I shouldn't say right. There we go. There's a judgment.
it's
Right?
so easy, you
Yeah,
see.
it's so easy to slip. It's a
Right.
slippery slope. But
Yeah.
here's my way to respond. Yeah.
I love, I think, Michelle, sometimes people can make that choice right away, but you know what? Sometimes it takes a really long time before you can look back and understand, maybe the why of why something happened, why a relationship ended, or a job, got lost that you still thought you liked, or a body injury, which I'm dealing with right now. Sometimes it's not instant, but I still think there's a choice, as Michelle's saying. Like sometimes the choice is like a high choice where like, yes, I can walk away from this. I can choose like that was like, I'm not in my highest interest. I'm going to go look for a new job. Like sometimes people get there right away, but sometimes people have to actually sit in the ouch for some period of time. But the ouch is different from blaming, right?
Yeah.
The ouch is different from judging. Like that's the worst thing ever. The ouch is just like, whoo, ouch, right? It's still a different energy, even if it isn't like, okay, rolling up my sleeves and what's next. It's just being with what is rather than lashing out around.
Yeah. Yeah. Like one of the things we do in the program is there's a visualization exercise where we have you look back on your life at, various periods of your life, and you look at things that you've been holding onto for a very long time, like, oh, that was bad, like that happened and that was bad. I lost that job, that was bad time. There's a bad time in my life, or that marriage ended. that was really bad. And then it's a reflective exercise where you start to look for the gifts or the opportunities that came from those circumstances. And more often than not, like 99% of the time, except that maybe it was trauma in your life, severe trauma, even then, people can find some gifts or opportunities that came from those circumstances. So if you're holding on to something, or you tend to shame and blame yourself or other people, this might be a great program for you to grow as a person and as a leader, as a parent. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people carrying around, unexpressed shame where it's lurking,
Mhm.
this is a great program to start to, make peace. Let that out. Stop carrying that around quite so much.
Yeah, and it can be life-changing. I mean, you've spoken about it, David, frequently, that when you were first introduced to this positive intelligence work years ago, that it totally shifted things for you. And actually you
It,
entered this world of working in leadership development in
yeah,
the end
it's
as a
true.
result.
It's true. The positive intelligence work, it's going back, almost 10 years for me now, has had a huge impact on my life, and especially around that inner critic piece. So, I know a lot of folks out there, you're harsh with yourself. You may not even realize how harsh you're being with yourself at times because it's such a pervasive voice. But you know this if you've got it. Like if you're lying down in bed at night and you're reviewing something that happened during the day and then you start to beat yourself up about it and you can't go to sleep because of it, you know that this is something you're dealing with. By the way, it's firsthand experience that I'm relating there.
Yeah.
And it still
Sometimes
happens. It still happens
people
for me.
people in this program, in my experience, are consistently shocked actually at how awful they are to themselves. I think we actually get we get attuned to it or tune it out. We get inured to it, whatever the word is that I'm looking for. But
Right.
like it's just such a
Immune.
constant, yeah, that I find consistently that at the when people meet their own judge and really pause and listen, they are, myself included, my experience. I mean, I couldn't believe how awful I spoke to myself and how awful I was to myself sometimes. It
And
was
then
shocking.
you'll judge yourself for being awful with yourself. No, it's
True.
really gets like
There's the
that.
slippery slope. I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'd be like, I know I'm like been at this like for 10 years and I still will catch myself and sometimes judge myself harshly for judging myself harshly.
I know better.
Exactly. Oh, you got 10 years of doing this and you're still judging yourself. What the hell's wrong with you? But I'm learning to be more kind and gentle. And if you'd like to be more kind and gentle with yourself and other people in your life, and when things don't go your way, we're going to put a link in the show notes to describe the program and just reach out to one of us. We'll also have links to each of our contact pages where you can reach out to us and get some help. That's what leaders do. They get help. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They learn how to ask for help.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think the people who go through this program pretty consistently feel like it's an extraordinarily high bang for the buck. It's an incredible program. It's very intentional. It's very well thought out. It's a tight journey that leaves people in a different place when they finish.
7 weeks to transform your life. Guaranteed. All right. This is your friends, Michelle Malloy Dillon, Margaret Katz Can, and David Francis Landruli. I'll just throw the middle name in there because my partners here have theirs.
Oh,
Uh, Signing out and from fundraisingleadership.org. Take care.